So good afternoon, everybody. For those of you I don't know, my name is Anthony Kupfer-Schmidt. I work with the City of Vancouver in a role focused on policy and planning and strategy for the aging population. But I am also a retired, can I say that? Retired executive director of not-for-profit senior centers. So I have a strong background in the community-based senior serving sector. And it is my pleasure to help convene this panel today focused on understanding and strengthening community-based senior services in BC, a critical dialogue. And just before we start, I just wanted to acknowledge Dr. Mei Fang was hoping to be here today. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to, but she's here in spirit. So that means you're stuck with me today as a facilitator for this panel. But thankfully, we've got a great panel lined up. So I'm not going to give any other introduction than that. I'm just going to let the panelists dive right in. We are hopefully then going to encourage a good round of conversation amongst the five. Looking forward to the arm wrestling that might happen from some of all that, and then questions from you too. So to kick us off, I have the pleasure of introducing Leslie Gaudette. And Leslie is the president of the Council of Senior Citizens Organizations of BC, or COSCO BC. So Leslie, you're up first. Go right ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here, and Anthony and I have been co-collaborators and conspirators for some time. I'm here a little bit too in my role as Vice President of Langley Seniors in Action, which was a planning table that's been around for about 12, 14 years. And I've titled my presentation, Older Adults and Our Organizations in BC, Visible or Invisible, because along with the gray hair, which makes you become invisible, I think a lot of the organizations are invisible as well. Now I'll just check that. So we do acknowledge that COSCO BC and its affiliated members, including Langley Seniors in Action, are grateful to live, work, and be in relation with people from across many traditional and unceded territories across British Columbia. We are honored to live on this land and are committed to reconciliation, decolonization, and building relationships in our communities. I'm going to talk a bit about myself because as I thought about visibility and invisibility, I kept coming back to Alice through the looking glass. And there I was at it. So my life started up to age 50. Everything went really well. I had a husband. I had 2 kids at home, 2 cars, 2 jobs, 1 dog, the ultimate lifestyle. But by age 55, my husband had died and gone. The kids were away at university. There was 1 car and 1 job. And then I retired and moved to BC. So I had to create my whole new life with my 1 new car and 1 dog. But then the dog died and my mother died. And what do I do with the next 30 years of my life? Will I fall off a cliff when I turn age 65? What do I need to avoid that? So socially, I needed to make new friends. For my mind, I needed meaningful work and activities. I had to connect with my heart, with my extended family, and my spirit with a faith community. So those are the 4 pillars of life. So all of a sudden, I'm on the other side, and there's no connection to the workplace. A whole pile of things are just not there. So I joined a national walking group that was actually a connection back in Ottawa. The faith community and the church ladies, never underestimate the church ladies. I got there at age 56 and I looked at them and I thought, oh, I've got 30 more years, I can do this. So I did, and it's been a very good support. We had the federal retiree group where I was the health benefits officer, and I learned about the challenges of older people trying to navigate all the health benefits that they had and all the community supports. So the Mind was Langley Lodge and a theater group. And I think I've got a timer on here too. So we started looking at the landscape of seniors organizations in BC. This was work that I did with Boa Kim and Anthony Kupfer-Schmidt through the Connect Age project. And there was a lot of different things that came up. And yet we found that the contributions of these organizations are undocumented, underfunded, and not valued, even the people running them sometimes, don't understand the value of the social connections. There's a lack of provincial or national structures. The full potential of these groups is just not realized, and every province is organized differently. And I really liked Tina's presentation this morning, because if you don't measure it, it doesn't exist, and we don't even know what there's out there to measure. We've been trying, but we're getting there. So I'm giving more of a provincial perspective. The Council of Senior Citizens Organizations of British Columbia is advocating for seniors in BC since 1950. We do put a lot of focus on low income, protecting pension plans. We have over 60 affiliated groups with more than 80,000 seniors across BC. We're volunteer-run, independent, nonpartisan, and democratic, and we do provide free in educational workshops through the Costco Health and Wellness Institute. Our Costco membership is broad-based, and it's the same. We have seniors groups in all parts of the province, branches of major retiree groups, senior centers and planning tables, faith-based and ethnocultural groups, and union retiree groups. With Langley Seniors in Action is one of them. And this is a group that brings together all the community groups. And that kind of group, I think, is really important to have in place so that the social connectors and social prescribers have a place to go to get the information and don't have to generate it themselves. We have a lot of provincial seniors and retiree groups. And these are large they might be umbrella organizations, but they're focused around a pension plan. You have retired teachers, retired provincial government employees, municipal pension plans, and so on. These collectively have more than 100,000 members in BC, with another 100 or more potential members, because not everybody joins. They provide social connection and critical information. These are the places to go to try and get information out to seniors that's valuable. So when the Canada Dental Plan comes in, you know you're getting the right information. And those programs are run by seniors. They're not community serving agencies, they're seniors groups. We have a number of community seniors groups. These are open to everyone. There's senior centers, there's seniors programs, there's clubs, there's seniors planning and action tables. And these are often senior driven. They will have paid staff, some of them are totally organized by volunteers. Anthony and I yesterday were at the OAP hall in Aldergrove. I live 15 minutes from there, and I never knew that it was there. And it's an amazing volunteer-run center, basically. We have a number of groups that have specific membership criteria. You have to belong to a certain pension plan or a former union or part of your ethnic or cultural heritage. And there seems to be a new type of group which is organized around a specific issue. There's a number of groups serving a range of age groups, and this is where neighborhood houses come in. These often have a large component of seniors programming, but they're less they involve other ages and may be run by non-seniors. And we do bring in the third age learning groups and academic institutions focused on research. Communication is a key role of all of these groups. For Costco, we have the Costco News, which I've got some copies of at the back. There's social media. The technology involved in getting all this done is an ongoing challenge, especially for older adults. We have a lot of fun at our community tables, and these in-person events are invaluable to connect with partners and other organizations. I've mentioned the Costco News. And advocacy is critical. We really need a human rights approach because no matter what you look at, whether it's pension policies, low-income adults being warehoused in long-term care or social housing complexes, the lack of autonomy in health decision-making, disregarding of rights of long-term care residents, and exclusion of older adults from decision-making and planning affected them. And I think this is something we all have to keep in mind. And so we need input from seniors groups into program planning and evaluation. I'm going to do the shameless presentation for our conference coming up on October 3rd and 5th, which will look at human rights and aging and advocating for an equitable future. And I hope that some of you will be there. I'll see hopefully some of you there. And finally, how to make the visible invisible, or the invisible visible. The social connections are key, because the more you can socially connect people, it will reduce demand on the health system. I hope the evaluation of the social prescribing programs will get to that point. Space and funding are constant. Communications and adapting, continually having to adapt communications to the external world. I think there could be a lot more done on provincial and national structures, because every province is different, and I think the Connect Age project comparing BC and Quebec is brilliant. And I think senior services should be organized like school districts so that you don't have to be going over and over for funding. So thank you very much.
It's now my great pleasure to introduce Anwin Loverin, the Executive Director of Silver Harbor Centre. I just wanted to say, Leslie, thank you very much for setting the stage for the diversity of seniors serving organizations and seniors groups around the province, and I'm hoping we can build up from that with the conversation. So Anwin, over to you.
Great to be here this afternoon. Thank you very much for including me in the panel, Anthony. The perspective that I'm taking on this is the one of our own Seniors Activity Centre, Silver Harbor, which is located in North Vancouver. More about that in a minute. And really trying to look at our current challenges, our opportunities, and I think as has probably been said before today, the much needed resources that we need to lean into. And I hope as I talk, you will see sort of similarities and commonalities with your own experiences. So I'm going to start out with a little bit of information about Silver Harbor and our current resources. I'll talk about our next big opportunity, exciting and daunting, and then generally talk about the challenges, opportunities, and the resources that we need now and into the future. So first of all, a little bit about us. As Anthony mentioned, I get to be the Executive Director of Silver Harbor Seniors Activity Centre. We've been around for over 50 years. We help seniors thrive by offering this very wide range of programs, services, and connections, over 75 of them. Located in North Vancouver, and our programs range from areas like physical wellness to visual and performing arts, to learning or educational opportunities, to social connectedness programming, and a lot of services, including food, which is one of my favorites. We engage with approximately, over 3,000 seniors a year. We have about 500 to 600 instances of participation per day. It's a little bit of a busy and hectic center at the best of times. And for all of our programs, we identify what we hope are the benefits or outcomes that participants are going to receive by participating. So things like social connectedness, an increase in resilience, self-confidence, a sense of purpose, mental or emotional wellness, physical wellness, and that capacity to plan and make informed choices. I don't mind being an open book, so we'll talk a little bit about resources. I always find that we tend to hold our cards close to the chest when we talk about money. I'd rather not, just because it gives a better sense of the resources that are needed to provide the benefits to community. So our typical annual budget is about $1.1 million. We have a very interesting revenue breakdown in the sense that about 50% of our revenues come from what I would call earned revenue. So that's things like modest program fees, licensed bingo, the sale of food, and so on. We're also somewhat unusual in that although we are a nonprofit and a charitable organization, we are allowed to apply for municipal operating grants from 2 of our local municipalities. And although those grants were as high as 50% of our budget, they are now 35% of our revenues. Much appreciated, but again, an annually applied for resource. And then that balance of our resources is all around project and program-based scrounging for funding from government agencies, organizations, foundations, private donors, and businesses. Just to recognize in form, I guess, of expenses, the kind of resources that Silver Harbor uses and needs. About 50% of our budget goes towards staffing. We have this little staff team of 6. We have the support of about 15 to 20 contractors. But what we really have, which is truly the force of Silver Harbor, is 200 to 300 volunteers. And our volunteers do about 75% of the hours to operate the center and all of its programming. And of course, we're very fortunate to have a strong board of directors. The rest of our resources go towards building, operating, program supplies and expenses, and those fun administrative costs like external audits. Good times. Okay, that's a little bit about Silver Harbor. I feel like there's probably commonalities with the organizations that you might be involved with. And I just wanted to kind of, be very open about the kind of resources that are required to operate our center. So our next big, exciting, but very scary opportunity is that next spring, we're going to be moving into a new replacement facility. So I'll talk about this because it's been a very interesting relationship with the City of North Vancouver. We have our land and building to give to them in exchange for a long-term lease. And when I say we have, it has on title the ability for the municipality to buy it for $1 anyways. So I'm just trying to hint at how tangled and convoluted relationships with those who provide resources can be. Anthony said I should do that.
Yeah, blame me. Yep, absolutely. Yep.
And very, again, part of the daunting piece of that is that we're not only responsible for operating this new facility, but also equipping it. It will be slightly larger, about 9% larger, which is not a match for the demographics, if you thought I didn't know that, and has about the same number of program spaces. So, challenges and opportunities. I think it won't be a surprise to anyone that we see the changes in the demographics in terms of a greater number of seniors of all ages in our community. We see a greater diversity of seniors showing up at the Seniors Activity Center. We notice more anecdotally than anything else that there's an increase in individual complexity that sometimes shows up as being barriered to participate or not included or actively excluded from programs and services. And therefore we see a lot more and a lot more varied support needs. Because of our limited space, both where we are currently and in our future building, combined with the growing demographics, we have already, and we know we will experience an increase in program demand, the demand for our programs and services. So this looks like people saying, well, that program is full still, or full again, or why can't I get into, or I could really use the support of X, but there's no room in the program. We get requests to expand programs, and we do expand the number of people that can participate in a program or service without hopefully watering down the benefits of that program and service. But we also get requests not only for expanded programming, like English language learning, but programming that's new to us. So for example, programming in other languages than English. We, with our new center, are going to have the blessing of increased visibility. And so we're if you have been to North Vancouver, if you've ever been to Silver Harbor, we are tucked away on a residential street with a lovely wild garden out front, not very visible to the community, and we're moving along with a municipal recreation center onto a very visible site, a block from where we are now. So if we think that we have excess demand over supply for our programs and services, this will be even more visible to community. That's wonderful. And as we welcome new people, we are keeping in mind centering the participation of those who might be traditionally excluded or who might need support in participating. Again, with that open financial book piece, I'm just here to say that it's going to cost over $700,000 to equip our new building. The city is giving us, in exchange for our property, this wonderful new, slightly larger facility, but the equipping of it falls on us as a nonprofit and charity. The new building will be more expensive. This is, Anthony, you said I should be honest, right? This gorgeous,
why should we have this conversation?
I know. This gorgeous, environmentally friendly, sustainable building is going to be much more expensive to operate than our current 50-year-old building. We have a wonderful 1970s rec room cinder block vibe going on at Silver Harbor, lots of brown and beige. And we're going to be in a brand new, beautiful facility, but it's going to be much more expensive to operate. Slightly larger square footage, new systems, underground parking, who would have thought, and a municipal energy system that is way more expensive than natural gas. So, as a result of all this, we're planning for a small staff expansion. We're hoping for a 6th day in line with the weekend loneliness findings of the SFU Metro Vancouver Senior Center's report. And we know that although our volunteer corps is strong, the changes in volunteerism with less availability, more flexibility required is going to be a challenge for continuing to onboard volunteers. The expenses we're looking at are a 10 to 20% over current budget. I don't know if any of you have managed to do that from one year to the next. I say it in order to normalize it in my brain because it is somewhat daunting. And as a result, we have just, for the first time, leaned heavily into major gift donations as an organization. I said when I was hired at Silver Harbor that I would never wear a short skirt and heels and have a gala. And now, I don't know that we're actually thinking of galas, but it's definitely a stretch for me personally to think about asking people for $15,000 to $50,000. That's not something I'm used to, and that's not a crowd I'm used to running with. So. Just to wrap up, one of our greatest resources is our partnerships. We partner with about 30 different organizations already in order to assess needs and plan programs and implement services. We are working much more intently with the municipality as we will be closer neighbors in the future. And we have had a wonderful blossoming relationship with SFU over the years, in particular, 2 very helpful pieces, and then I will shortly end. One is an accessibility, impact, and inclusion assessment. We had over 500 responses to our survey amongst current and past members, so very grateful to hear people's suggestions for how we improve and need to improve on those fronts. And then also with Simon Fraser, a change management or transitions project that will look at other senior centers and how they moved, and how our move experience can inform the moves of future senior centers. So just to come right back to where we're supposed to be, which is impact and benefits for seniors in our community. I'll just end with 50 Amazing Lives. This was our 50th anniversary initiative with interviews of people who are connected with Silver Harbor. It was a wonderful experience, and it really brought home how much people find wellness and connection, support, and purpose through Silver Harbor. So thank you very much for the opportunity to be here.
Edwin, thank you very much for your candid sharing. That's what really appreciated. I would say your check's in the mail, but I don't work for the municipality in which you're based, sorry. But no, just really appreciate that, also shining the light on that very important role that community-based senior serving organizations need to have with their municipalities where that's possible, right? Thank you very much. That's really great. Next, I had the pleasure of introducing Shelley Jordy. You heard from Shelley just a few minutes ago as well from the floor, but Shelley's the Director of Older Adult Programs and Services at the South Vancouver Neighborhood House. So Shelley, let me get you queued up here. Over to you.
Thank you. So yeah, I am an advocate. I come by it naturally. As I get older, it fits me better than when I was younger. But today, Anthony's asked me to speak a little bit about neighborhood houses and how we fit into the community-based senior services sector, and then the model that we have at the South Vancouver Neighborhood House, our seniors hub. Just by a show of hands, because then I won't talk about it, but do you guys know what neighborhood houses are? Oh, quite a few. Okay, anyone want to describe what they are? No, I won't do that to you. I won't do that to you. I won't do that to you. But we've been around since, here in Metro Vancouver since 1891. We started as a hospital, an orphanage, and a fresh air camp. And then coming to focused on community-based neighborhood houses. We're really rooted in social justice, so you can see it, I wear it well. Equity, inclusion, celebrating our diversity, decolonizing, and I have to say I am a very privileged person. My pronouns are she and her. I've never faced any discrimination in my whole life. And I work with a team and a community that faces it regularly. So when we embark on this work to decolonize, the first step is always checking in with ourselves and that privilege. And I'm fourth generation settler. I live on the beautiful traditional unceded territories of the Katzie and Kwantlen nations. I drive in from Maple Ridge, and I am very, very grateful that they've stewarded this land for us for as long as they have. So the neighborhood house movement I spoke about a little bit started in the mid-1880s when 19th century England was having many rural residents come in seek of finding work in the cities. Immigrants were fleeing persecution. They were leaving behind their families, communities, and everything familiar to them. And then it was recognized, we need to do something about this. And what they did was they started nurseries, they started English language classes, they've started public recreation programs. And actually what came out of that was a new profession, the profession of social work. And I am not a social worker, but our social prescriber is. So I'm very fortunate to have somebody on the team with that skill. We're all across the world in 30 different countries. So, one of the things that roots us and makes us, I don't think we're any more special than my colleagues here on the panel. And it's really about the importance of listening to community, learning from community, acting as allies for community, and adapting to those local needs. And that's what neighborhood houses do. We're all a little bit different. We're all a little special. And it's coming together to do that work and to build community that really galvanizes the support we get from community, the trust that we have in us, and the trust that we have in them. So I don't know how much of you guys do community development, but you got to be a risk taker. You got to let it kind of let the folks take control. Let those voices, let those that are unrepresented and underserved be at the forefront. Be aware of your power and flip that power dynamic. There's not a lot of harm that can come in that. There's much more advantage to doing that than there is to withholding those lived experiences and those voices. So we seek to create a place where there's equity, there's belonging, and we love and care for each other. Like SVNH, the house that I work at, we really do refer to the group as our extended family. I think at the heart of it is, and it will be similar to these guys, it's really person-centered. It's like meeting those folks where they're at. Not telling them they need an active aging program, but engaging with them to find out what that looks like. What role can they have? And then supporting them to have that vision or that dream become a reality. And that's extremely hard for people, especially those of us that have been in this field, to put that aside and trust the community. That what they're saying they need, they really need. And Anwen spoke about the volunteers. We have about 100 volunteers, and most of them can speak 2 and 3 languages. I don't do a good job of English at the best of times, but I mean, we've got a lot of strength. Those volunteers, when I came from municipal government into the neighborhood house movement and landed at the South End Neighborhood House, I thought, what is the difference with these folks? Why is it not hard for us to find volunteers that will support their peers, that will lead programs, that will come in and make meals for others? And when I felt more comfortable and I started asking those questions, they shared with me that, when they immigrated, it was very tough. And they didn't want that for the people that were following them. So they were more than happy to step up and provide that leadership to programs. So we recognize as neighborhood houses that we all grow when we have an opportunity to give as well as receive. And I think Anwen mentioned that about gifts. We all have gifts to give. Similar to Anwen, our budget just for the seniors programs at the South End Neighborhood House is about $1 million. We serve a population that's about the size of Kamloops or Nanaimo. So it's not a lot of money. It doesn't go very far. It's a lot of money when you're trying to get the money to do the programs. But as I mentioned when I was whining a little earlier, we are well funded by the United Way. That's not our challenge. Our challenge is to find funding when the seniors say they want to do something, so there's funding for them to do that. And some examples were around when we came back from COVID, they said to me, people are even more isolated. What can we do? And I said, well, what do you want to do? And they said, well, maybe we can have some art therapy workshops. We won't call them that or they won't come, but we can call them something different, and we can welcome people to express how COVID has impacted them. Our neighborhood is high concentration of newcomers and immigrants. English is not a language that's commonly spoken on our street where our shops are. There's multiple barriers when you're thinking about folks that already are struggling with some of the things that come with aging and those other things that they can't control. So I think for me, it's from being very mindful that we need to find and support folks to build a sense of belonging and to help one another build community. One of the really exciting things that I'm able to do is to support the leadership capacity and building that happens at the neighborhood house. And this is our council right now. We've been around since 2010. We had funding from the city, and Lynn's out there. We had funding from Coastal Health and United Way and Vancouver Foundation to test this model, which was about flipping this power dynamic. Let's see what happens when we have people that are usually underrepresented at the leadership tables, making decisions about programs and services that they'd like, and then leaning in and providing the leadership for those programs to happen. And we did have some research. We were fortunate that we had the Center for Hip Health and Mobility built our framework for evaluation, which we're still using. And I know that it's important, and I know I say to Lynn, we do this every year. Can I please just skip a year? It's like 300 people we're surveying, and every time it tells us sort of the same thing. And we started to look at that. What are those questions? Because that it evolves over a decade. So what are those important things that we want to know about? And we want to know if people are connected. We want to know if when you need to call on somebody, do you have that person in your life to call on? And I was totally shocked when we all went home and we're sheltering in place and staying safe. We don't have a lot of technology at the house, so we all took home all these program participation attendance sheets, And we called, and there were about 600. I couldn't make many calls because not many English speakers, but my team did. And all of those people, when I said well, let's ask them if they're okay, let's see if they need anything. They all said they're fine. I'm fine. You need to support somebody else that needs it more. 2 weeks later, I said, let's try this again because there's something. And at that point, there was a shift. And they said, okay, we're okay, but who's not okay? Who did you find on our list in our programs that we can start connecting with? And they started phone trees and calling and sharing. Those leaders that knew what programs and services were available started to let people know. I think the heart of it is, they're the experts in their lived experience. They don't need me. Mind you, I just turned 60. I've joined the forces now. But they don't need me to tell them what they need. They need me to trust, and our volunteers and our staff to trust. The resilience that they showed during COVID, it blew my mind. I just had no idea, because we'd never tested. Are you really going to be okay if the what hits the fan? And they were. And they came back totally revitalized, totally ready to go. Welcome new people in. We knew we'd be starting from scratch, and some people wouldn't be there. Some people we had lost. So what will we do as community to make sure we're recognizing that and we're celebrating those lives and that we've taken time ourselves to heal? I know I'm probably going to get the yank.
No, you're good.
Okay. All right, I said about the research, yep, and we appreciate it. And I know we have a lot of research that's required through United Way as well, so there is evidence for those funded programs and how well they will do. So my job is basically to make sure that this seniors hub that they've created carries on after I'm gone. Is that governance model going to work? And it's been replicated across many different communities in Vancouver, and we know it's working. So it's just harnessing the community's assets, training and mentoring and engaging seniors as leaders in many different capacities, addressing community participation barriers and other issues that are identified by seniors, implementing culturally appropriate outreach strategies to address social isolation and inclusion of vulnerable seniors. At the heart of it, we want to innovate, we want to come together, celebrate, and have as much fun as possible. And today they were having fun, and I said I wouldn't be able to join them for Seniors Week, and it's kind of the first time that's happened. So I welcome questions afterwards, and I thank you very much for your attention and for all that you do to raise the voices of the academics so the funding will follow.
It's my pleasure now to introduce Jackie Lung. Jackie is the Program Director of Wellness and Active Communities at Success. Jackie, over to you. Thank you.
Right. Hi, everyone. Thank you. I'm humbled to be here, sharing the table with many who are much more experienced than I, and also folks here I recognize. It's also a pleasure because it's my first time seeing Shelley, but I talked to her on the phone a few times. She heard me rant about the Age-Well application and how the negotiation was terrible. That language I cannot use in this occasion. Yeah. Alas, that's coming to an end, which also is, challenges that we kind of face. So I'm from Success. Success is an immigrant-serving social service organization. We began in the 70s, mostly to address the unmet settlement needs of Chinese-speaking newcomers, particularly people from Hong Kong. I think back then there weren't such a thing called settlement service yet, so I think there are a lot of new groundbreakers then. We've now grown to be a multi-service, multicultural agency that offers social programs, seniors, care, and affordable housing. And now, among about 82,000 clients that we served last year, clients from Hong Kong, Taiwan, and China most like Chinese speakers, make up about just under 50% of our clients. And it's in this very interesting backdrop that we develop our programs and services that we provide for our seniors and community. We're very small, like what I do is a very, very small part of the organization. We served just under 3,000 people last year. Our service areas are very diverse. It depends on where it's delivered. We have stuff going on in Vancouver, in Richmond, in Coquitlam. My office is about 10 minutes away in Chinatown. And the demographics that we serve also, it's very interesting because while, under 50% of our clients now are Chinese speakers, I think we still, in what I do, I think we still hold very close to the roots of how we came to be. So, and many of them, all of these programs are developed by the needs of providing culturally appropriate services. Many of our services are tailored for seniors, but not all of them are. But it's also just happens to be something our seniors really needed as well. We have a lot of United Way funded programs like social prescribing that you heard about, like Better at Home. We also have 7 member-led, volunteer-led, and mostly seniors-led seniors and women's groups that we have in Vancouver, in Richmond, and in Tri-Cities. They're mostly run in either Cantonese or Mandarin. So what they do is they run their own programs. They have a committee, they meet every month, they talk about what they want to do. The independence depends on the group themselves. Some of them, they look for their speakers. They look for their own activities. They have their own instructors, and we just provide a staff member to just help them connect everything and book space and all that kind of stuff, right? Some of the groups needed more support, but this is one thing that we're really proud of doing is, having a seniors-led and volunteer-led group where they decide what they want to do themselves. We also have been running a very robust digital literacy program for folks. Unfortunately, that one, the funding just ended, so we're just trying to figure out what to do next. We're also celebrating the 40th anniversary of Evergreen News, which is a seniors-led Chinese monthly publication that we have been publishing since 1985. And we also do like an income tax clinic where we support 600 to 1,000 taxpayers every year, most of which are seniors. So a lot of the programs and services that we do are designed to provide culturally appropriate services in the immigrant's first language. So we don't only do Chinese language programs, we also have lots of programs in Korean, Farsi, and Ukrainian, for what I do. And I guess what I'm trying to say is a lot of the programs are shaped by the roots that we have, while others have also changed. Anthony asked us to share a little bit about the challenges and the opportunities that we have. So one challenge that we have here is there's a disparity between what the community expects of us and what we can deliver. I think since, especially among the Chinese-speaking folks, I think a lot of times in the past, I think we're the only agency around where they come and they ask their questions and they get solved. But funding models have changed, services have changed, and some of that changed. And so sometimes a lot of what we can do depends on where we are geographically, but people come to us because of that cultural affinity they have with us. So sometimes we can't serve them in the way that they wanted. And I think that's kind of difficult for us and challenging for us because we're not located in one neighborhood specifically, like a neighborhood house, right? But people come all over to ask for help in different things, in different locations. Funding stability and sustainability is also a challenge. I know obviously funding is a problem, but also I like to highlight that the stability is also an important thing. I think a lot of times the opportunities that we get are quite piecemeal, and it's also very contingent upon the political climate that was at the time. So one example was, I guess during like COVID, right? There's a huge need to do promotions and awareness campaigns and health-related stuff, right? So, and then with that at the time, and then there was also a dementia opportunity. So we had a huge bunch of money that came in and said, okay, we're gonna do all this stuff. But after a couple of years, that thing's gone. So, so what do our staff do, right? And I think with our work, a lot of the trust that we gain are really from our staff working with the community, building relationships that are long term. So if these funding come and go and we have no control over what comes next, then it's very hard for us to continue delivering and fostering those relationships. So I should have got slides. Sorry, that's just
Great.
yeah, and it's not fun coming after all these eloquent speakers. So yeah, so but and for us too, I think a lot of people when they come to us, they're looking for a service in their first language and in that is culturally appropriate. And a lot of times that means that the support services that we're trying to look for them don't exist. So for example, we just had to talk about social prescribing. So a link worker or a community connector is supposed to link our clients with a service in the community that can support them. But I think maybe it's because of our name or because of our worker, a lot of the folks that come to us or where we are, a lot of those folks, they don't speak English. So when they ask for help for this thing, there isn't a thing that we can link them to. So at the end of the day, we have to do this at the side of our desks. Our link worker may have to provide a service. We try to connect them to settlement service, but not all of them are eligible clients because different funders have very strict requirements on who we are supposed to be serving. So all of that, is quite difficult. And finally, with the challenge, it's also hard to be providing equitable service for everybody. What that means is I think there's always enough work cut out for us with the amount of funding that we get. And we also have the people that come to us and people that we can be serving. But there's always new people that we want to reach. There are always people who are isolated that we want to reach. And I think it takes some courage or it takes some trust to sort of divert resources to do that sort of stuff, to reach people who we don't normally get to see, we don't normally get to serve. And and that takes a lot of courage too. So for opportunities, I have to mention that because we are funded by the United Way, and I promise Bev that I won't badmouth. No, seriously though, I think we have had, we're really thankful for the flexibility that we have in delivering the Better Home service. I think I mentioned before, there was that piecemeal thing going on, but with the Better Home, I think there is a lot of flexibility on what we are allowed to do or what we can be doing for the clients. So that's a great model that I think we have. So the question is just like before, there's this huge demand on this service, but the pie is this much. So are we gonna go and do Y and Z when X is already enough for us, right? When we can always just meet the targets by doing X, right? Recently, another opportunity is, I think there's a lot of appetite from healthcare research and also, mostly healthcare research including the voices of immigrant communities. And we've been doing quite a couple of projects together with different partners to try to have more immigrant voices in healthcare research. And I always try to embed a program, a service there. So to slip in something, because you can't always just, nobody's gonna come and do like a 5-page, survey, or they're gonna come sit with you for an hour for your benefit, right? It has to be something that's for them. So that's what our opportunity is too. And I guess that's about it. Thank you.
Jackie, thank you so much. I actually think it's refreshing when someone doesn't have slides, right? We actually listen to them talk. It's really, really great. Fantastic. Well, it's wonderful. And so I have the opportunity now to introduce our last panelist today, Alison Silgardo, the CEO of Senior Services Society of BC.
Good evening, everyone. It's been a long day, and I am so grateful to be part of this conversation. Most of the conversations today have been around seniors who need supports, but who are housed. I now take it a different way. The work that Senior Services does is we're a community-based nonprofit charity located in New West, and our work is focused on working with seniors who are homeless or at risk of homelessness, most of the time for the first time in their later years. We also provide supports for seniors to age in place in New West as part of the Better at Home program. To set the stage, I wanted to give you a couple of examples of the seniors that we deal or run into, just to get a sense of who these homeless seniors are. So Jane is an 86-year-old lady who lived for 26 years in a rented unit in Burnaby. The unit was owned by a couple, and when her husband passed away, the owner told Jane that she had to move out and gave her plenty of notice. She had about 6, oh, did I move something? Oh, never mind.
That's so, yes, you might have just gone one slide forward. Oh, maybe a couple. There we go. Not sure how that
Okay.
happened. There you go. You're good.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
She was given plenty of notice. Jane tried for 6 months, and despite having money, good references, and being completely independent, she could not access housing. When the last date arrived, Jane moved with her possessions and lived in her vehicle in Burnaby Central Park. A few days later, Jane was connected to Senior Services, and within 3 days, she was being able to access our rapid access unit, because we don't have senior-specific shelters in BC, unfortunately. We have about 6 in Vancouver with the Catholic Charities, and about 12 with another parish in Abbotsford, but not a lot of senior-specific shelters. Following that, Jane moved into our temporary housing unit, and within under a month, she was able to move into a partner agency, and our partner is right here, Brightside, into her permanent home, and was able to spend Christmas at home. Another example is Tom. Tom is a contractor by trade, and he worked on the SkyTrain line. He resided in the Fraser region and had money to rent a basement suite. When the landlord sold his house, Tom found another basement suite. And when his house was sold for a second time, he reached out to find permanent housing with us. We were able to place Tom in a temporary housing unit, and within a few months, he was able to find permanent housing with a partner agency in the coastal region. Tom also had a mental health situation, and he had supports in the Fraser region. Unfortunately, when he moved into his new home, and he was delighted by his space, and so were his team and the landlord, he could not get his supports to transfer with him. Much to his dismay, the landlord's dismay, and our team's, he completely disintegrated and killed himself. That is just one of the opportunities or challenges we face with working with the clients we do. The last example is Gary. He lived in a rental unit and had stubbed his toe. He ended up in hospital, and his situation became chronic. His stay was extended for 3 months. On his discharge, he reached out to his landlord to let him know he was going to return home, and was surprised to find that his unit had been relet and his belongings were all discarded. He had no ID and absolutely nothing to his name. That week alone, that was 3 years ago in November, we received 4 calls like that from seniors who were discharged from hospital to homelessness. Hopefully these examples give you a sense of who a homeless senior is and who we work with. The visual I picked here is the visual of a forest, and sometimes we forget to see the forest for the trees. And while daily challenges focus on the immediate needs, housing, crisis response, individual support, attachment to health, exit from health, elder abuse, and finance, we often miss the big picture and the individual senior who's navigating it. As Anthony and Andrew earlier said, talk about the challenges. So hopefully I'm going to talk about three things: the challenges, an innovative solution, and hope to have a question for you all later. As everybody here in this room is a senior or a senior in training, I look forward to getting your solutions on how we might want to be. So the first challenge is awareness. We were able to, with senior services understanding this challenge around seniors and homelessness for years, we've all heard about the challenges community-based organizations have with their budget. So marketing is definitely not a priority item. So we were able to engage the services of a practicum student from Douglas College and was able to start a social media presence. That had some impact, but not enough. We then were able to leverage the support of a local icon, Peter Legg, and started a podcast series called Fridays with Seniors, where we talked about trends we were seeing and solutions to those supports. And that worked well for a little while. Finally, 6 years ago, we started the SHINE program. And with that, we built a team of agencies around the province that were funded through the Ministry of Health, that were able to support seniors locally in all 5 regions, that were able to help them navigate these systems that they were bumping into, and also developed a community of practice. Because anybody working with a senior knows that no two individual situations are the same, and sometimes you got to really get creative on finding a solution. We also recognized that that was still not having enough impact. So we kept looking for opportunities and doing what we did, and we're truly grateful in December last year to have won the Humanitarian Award for our work with seniors and homelessness in BC. And that work has given us a year-long $1 million visibility, both on TV and radio. So we're hoping at the end of the year, those that have the power to fund these services will have got the message. And I'm going to play this video, if I may.
When you lose your home, it feels like you're losing everything. 1 in 10 seniors are homeless or at risk. Seniors deserve better. A message from the Broadcasters of BC and the Senior Services Society.
All right. The second challenge, of course, is financial. And the first one being loss of a spouse, either through death or divorce. And unfortunately, through COVID, we saw that was an increasing number of seniors over the age of 65 and 70 who were getting divorced. Quite an unusual situation, but it also impacted their finances substantially. Financial abuse and elder abuse with adult children, that is an increasing amount. I'll give you the story of Karen and David, who lived in New West. They had finances, they had a solid pension, they had a home. Their neighbors reported to us that they couldn't see them doing their normal things. We went over, tried to access them and couldn't. Went back with the police and were able to get police escort. They were confined to their basement by their adult children with a bucket as a latrine. So we were able to get them out of there and transport them to Alberta to other family. So they kept asking for their visa cards, new visa cards, to be able to get money and move on, and the kids kept confiscating it. So those are real signs of abuse that we've been able to support or help with. More month at the end of their money, just with the cost of living these days. Filing of taxes by the deadline. It's not uncommon for seniors who don't file, even if they don't owe taxes, to be forced to become homeless because they've lost their GIS and other income that flows from it. So that's something we're trying to work with this year. in getting CRA to give them that grace for at least another month, because they're often in hospital or getting some assistance and they have missed the deadline. Stuck between a rock and a hard place, and I was trying to look for visuals to symbolize all these different challenges. And this one is in many ways between provincial and federal funding. About 6 years ago, we had about 22% of our clients stuck between provincial and federal funding. So on their 65th birthday, they lost their provincial funding, didn't get their federal funding, and were made homeless. Fast forward 5 years, happy to say that last year we had 2 people in that gap. It's not perfect, but it's way better. So we're on the way. The other piece is between different health levels. So if you have a couple that are, I guess, aging at different levels, and they both need to go into care, they don't have enough income for both of them to age effectively. And that is another challenge. Now, this problem with finances we see is not restricted just to older adults who are low income. We do see that even with owners of stratas. When an assessment is delivered for that building or the unit, most older adults can't afford or can't get a loan to pay for the assessment, and quite often are forced into a foreclosure if they don't have access to a reverse mortgage for the amount they need. So those are some of the challenges we're seeing on finance. Housing, the physical form itself, and I don't know if Atia's in the room because that's something she works with a lot, but the physical form, just having universal design in buildings right from day one so that a person can age in place. A lot of the purpose-built rental buildings that are walk-ups have seniors challenged to get down to access different supports or even to get out. It's not uncommon in New West where we have seniors sitting on their butt and coming down the stairs and then needing help to get back up. Or with the size of doors to critical spaces like the laundry room being too small to accommodate a walker or a wheelchair and requiring home health, who then comes and does all the tests and says, well, you don't qualify for home health, but then you can't do your laundry. So now you're in a bit of a quagmire. So having that physical form. Co-ops, quite a lot of seniors we've run into have had their monthly charges increase between $500 to $1,000 a month in a place that they lived and participated in, only because they were either too old to contribute or because they were overhoused. Having developments for anybody built with studio unit or a proportionate number of one bedrooms so a senior can age in place. At some point they're going to need to, and they don't have to relocate. Taking the Indigenous definition of homelessness, where it's a connection to supports and community and everything around them that keeps them. Amenity spaces, we talked a little bit about health earlier, and for some of the landlords in the room, a constant challenge is around things like crisis evictions, where a landlord has no other option but to evict a senior because they cannot get them access to connect to health. That is really problematic. Exit from hospitals, I gave you the examples that we had. Cost of medications, okay. Bridging services. Quite often a senior in these conditions needs support just to bridge them, whether it's finances to pay an extra bill, whether it is counseling services, because they're not diagnosed with a mental health issue, but are depressed or anxious because they're in this situation, and to be able to have access to these services. All of that said, I guess I have too much to talk about here.
We can give you a half day next time.
Okay. All right, so all of that said, we are stuck in silos. We've heard of so many wonderful solutions today, but they are stuck in silos, and that's what the seniors we hear from say, help, we're stuck. Some of you may have seen our booth at the back of the hall, and in response to all these needs that we've seen over the last 6 years, we've been able to develop and expand SHINE, which is Seniors Housing Information and Navigation Ease. I won't go into all of these, but these are basically solutions to the challenges over these different streams. But what I will talk about are the 3 outcomes we've seen, which is truly transformational. I'm going to go here. One is, in this crazy environment with the cost of living, we have had for 15 consecutive months more affordable housing units offered to our agency than low-income seniors that need housing. every senior that we have placed through our continuum of housing has stayed permanently housed. And we have had 5 exceptions to that rule. The gentleman who died was one, and we've had 4 others. Those were most of the time seniors that had their employment that was connected to their housing. They lost their employment and consequently lost their housing, which is why quite often providers that we start to work with appreciate the referrals because it is the right fit for them. Okay. And on that note, I'm just at time. I'm going to take advantage, if I may, of talking about an event this weekend. If you're in the Vancouver region, we're hosting our annual fundraiser, which is a Walk of Ages at Mercer Stadium in New West, and you're all welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. That's great. Thank you very much to our wonderful panel. Another round of applause, please, for everyone. So just wanted to highlight, just very briefly, and then I want to turn it over to the panel, but what you've heard today is a little bit about the diversity of the community-based senior services sector, which is broader sometimes than the existing funding streams that are out there. You've heard about the importance of relationship building. You've heard about the double-edged sword of evaluation, as well as the double-edged sword of awareness. You've heard about the challenge of hearing and responding to the needs of community, and then if you don't offer that service and no one else does, what do you do under those circumstances? You've heard about the challenges about the funding cycles, the role of government, but I think we woven through all of that. You've obviously heard about the strength and some of where we can continue to go as a sector to continue to respond to the aging population. And I guess if I can ask, I'm going to take the liberty as the chair of asking the question of the panel, and you can all just jump in as you'd like. My question for you is, this sector is strong by definition because it's rooted in community, right? But this sector does not exist in isolation. So what would you like to see to further strengthen the sector and ensure it's able to engage and support the growing aging population? So in 10 seconds or less, we'll solve all the world's problems.
Just in a couple of words, I would like our health authorities to recognize the importance of health promotion and prevention activities and double down on those instead of the predominant focus on acute care.
For myself, it is just tremendous to see the opportunity of working together. This is a room filled with a lot of academics, having something with collective impact, because you heard what community-based agencies struggle with, including funding for those programs that you're studying would be helpful, and giving them opportunities to be showcased when you present, like Queen's did today, was fabulous. It just gives them credibility and leverage.
That's great, awesome, thank you. Any other members of the panel would like to make a comment? Go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, I'd like to add, there's a lot of really innovative stuff we're doing, but maybe we're not getting the word out. So we're looking for more people who can work with us to get the word out, either through, presentations or posters or whatever. But yeah, that's it.
Thanks, Jackie. Leslie.
Yeah, as a former Statistics Canada employee, we've counted a lot of things in this country, and it is just amazing how little is counted in seniors in terms of even understanding the taxonomy. When you're at StatsCan, there's 4-digit codes, thousands of them for everything from cancer to industries to whatever, and there's nothing for senior. Well, maybe there was, I should look, but I think just counting or having ways of describing what is out there, because right now it's invisible because it can't be counted. Thank you.
Thanks, Leslie. That's great. Joe, go ahead. Yeah,
Thanks.
bring us home.
Okay, well, I'm going to bring it home like this. We have to involve the voices of seniors. I know this is a very educated room, and I've told you I love you for that. But if we don't include those voices, all those things of folks that don't quite have the gray hair yet might not work. We have to listen and trust in their lived experience and appreciate and celebrate what they've done for us.
That's great. I think that's a wonderful tone and place to end this conversation. So Shelley, thank you very much. And you shift that over there. That's great. Thank you all to the panel again. Another round of applause. Okay. Andrew, happy to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, panel. That was exceptional. You just had great response from the crowd. I just want to remind everyone that we have a reception in the Tech Gallery. It's right behind this room. There's free food and refreshments and a networking opportunity, because I know a lot of you want to ask questions of some of the speakers today or just talk amongst each other. Also, I want to remind everyone that the public lecture tonight is being delivered by Anthony Cooper-Schmidt on Age Equitable Vancouver, I believe is the title. And that's at 6:30. So the reception is 5 to 6:30. At 6:30, well, 6:25. You should go upstairs to the 7th floor. And that's where Anthony's going to be at 6:30. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, all the speakers. Thank you, audience.